Imagine this. You're stretched out in your own backyard, sun warm on your face, the sound of water gently lapping in your private pool. The day's perfect. Blue sky, calm breeze, and the smell of burgers sizzling on the grill. The kind of afternoon that feels too peaceful to be real. Then, out of nowhere, you hear it. Sirens. At first you think they're passing by. But no, those sirens are getting louder, closer, until they stop right outside your driveway. And the wildest part? They're here. For you, that's exactly what happened to me. And here's the twist. I'm not just any homeowner. I'm the police chief of this town. It all started on a Saturday afternoon. My family and I had been looking forward to a simple weekend. No patrols, no calls, just peace. My kids were splashing in the pool. My wife was setting up snacks, and for once, life was quiet. Through the fence, I noticed my neighbor, Miss Taylor, standing there again, arms crossed, expression tight as ever. She'd been tense ever since the pool was installed last summer. It wasn't about noise. It wasn't about property lines. Her issue was that I hadn't opened my private pool to the whole neighborhood. In her mind, I was supposed to turn my backyard into some kind of public swim club. I gave her a friendly wave, tried to smooth things over. She didn't wave back. Instead, she turned on her heel and stormed into her house. I didn't think much of it, until 10 minutes later. That faint wail of a siren grew louder and louder, until it stopped right in front of my home. 2 officers stepped out of the cruiser. My own officers. The looks on their faces told me something strange was coming. "Chief," one of them said carefully, "we got a 911 call. Something about a disturbance at your pool." I blinked. At my pool? Before I could say anything else, Miss Taylor came marching down her driveway like she was leading a parade. Her voice rang out over the whole block. "There he is!" she yelled. "He's refusing to share the pool with the community. That's selfish. That's illegal." My officers froze. They knew this was absurd. There's no law saying a homeowner has to share private property with the neighborhood. But a 911 call is a 911 call. You respond. Always. And standing there, with the whole street watching, I realized this wasn't about a pool anymore. It was about control, about entitlement, about how far someone will go when they believe the world owes them something that isn't theirs. I kept my voice calm. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "this is a private residence. My family's property. You know that." But that didn't slow her down. She turned to the officers instead. "He's the chief. He's supposed to serve and protect. Isn't it his duty to share with the community? This is neglect." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity, but I didn't, because this was spiraling fast, and now half the neighborhood was starting to gather. People peered over fences. A few stepped into their driveways, drawn by the flashing lights. Whispers rippled through the air. One of my officers leaned closer. "Chief, how do you want to handle this?" That was the tough part. Legally, I hadn't done anything wrong. But I was still their boss, and any decision could look like favoritism, or worse, arrogance. So I did what I'd done hundreds of times before. I took control calmly. "Everyone listen up," I said, raising my voice. "This pool is private property. That's not up for debate. But here's what is, using 911 for something like this. That's not what emergency services are for. When you make a call like that, you pull resources away from real emergencies. People in danger. People who need help." A hush fell over the crowd. Some nodded. Others folded their arms. Then, from across the street, Mr. Hernandez spoke up. "Well, she's not wrong," he said. "It's hot out here. Maybe you could invite the kids once in a while." And just like that, the line was drawn. Half the crowd sided with me, property rights. The other half sided with her, envy disguised as community spirit. The sirens faded. But the storm was just beginning. By the next morning, it was all anyone in town could talk about. When I stopped by the coffee shop downtown, I heard the whispers. "That's him," someone murmured. "The chief who called backup over his pool." Of course, that wasn't true. But gossip doesn't care about the truth. It only cares about who's next in line to burn. Even back at the station, I could feel it. My officers tried to keep straight faces, but every time I walked by, I caught smirks, quiet laughter. "Chief," one of them joked, "need us to set up crowd control by your pool?" The room burst into laughter. I forced a smile, but deep down, It hurt more than I wanted to admit, because this wasn't just about a misunderstanding anymore. It was about trust, respect, and how easily both can slip away. People don't realize this. But misuse of 911 isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Every false call ties up dispatchers, clogs the line, and delays real emergencies. If that pool call had come in while someone was having a heart attack across town, the cost could have been a life. Still, I tried to let it go. I thought about talking to Miss Taylor, explaining it calmly. But every time I walked by her house, she was there, sitting on her porch like a hawk, arms folded, daring me to step up. Then came the letter. It showed up one morning in my mailbox. No stamp, no signature. Just a single sheet of paper typed in bold black ink. If you won't share the pool, we'll make sure you can't use it either. Consider it community justice. That was the moment it stopped being neighborhood drama. This was a threat. That evening, my wife found me pacing by the glass doors, staring out at the pool. "You can't ignore this," she said softly. "If they're willing to go this far over a pool, what's next?" She was right. Ignoring it would only invite more. But handling it as the police chief might make things worse. Some would accuse me of abusing power. Others would say I wasn't doing enough. Either way, I was walking a thin line. So I made a choice. The next step wouldn't be about fences or pools. It would be about respect, about law, and about how far envy can push people. That night, I barely slept. That letter burned in my mind. As a cop, I'd dealt with plenty of threats before. But this one hit differently. It wasn't from a stranger. It was from the people I'd sworn to protect. By morning, I knew I had to act. Not as a chief, not as a victim, but as a neighbor who had to draw the line. So I called for a community meeting that evening. Word spread fast. By sunset, half the neighborhood had gathered in my driveway. Some came curious, some angry. Some are ready for a fight, and at the front, of course, Miss Taylor, arms crossed. Jaw tight, I held up the letter for everyone to see. This, I said, was left in my mailbox. Whoever wrote it needs to understand. This isn't just a note. It's a crime. It's harassment. And if it continues, it'll be treated like one, the crowd murmured. Some looked guilty, others defiant. Miss Taylor stepped forward. "Maybe people wouldn't be so upset," she said sharply, "if you remembered you're supposed to serve this community, not sit behind your fence like some king. That was her move, turning me into the villain. But I didn't bite. I do serve this community," I said firmly. "That's exactly why I'm standing here now. To remind you all of something simple, my pool is private. That doesn't make me selfish. It makes me a homeowner. Just like you. You have the right to enjoy your backyard, your porch, and your car. And I have the same right. But if anyone tries to threaten my family or damage my property, you won't be facing your neighbor. You'll be facing the law." For a moment, silence. Not even the crickets dared to chirp. Then Mr. Hernandez spoke up quietly. "He's right," he said. "We might not like it, but it's his. We wouldn't let anyone take our space, our things. This isn't any different." That broke the tension. People started nodding. The crowd slowly thinned. Some went home shaking their heads, others embarrassed. But the shouting stopped. Miss Taylor lingered for a moment longer, glaring. But when she saw the two uniformed officers I'd quietly stationed at the edge of the street, her confidence wavered. She turned and walked away without another word. That night, I sat by the pool again. The water was still. The moonlight shimmered across its surface. The neighborhood, at last, was quiet. It wasn't the same peace I'd known before, but it was peace nonetheless. And it reminded me of something simple, but powerful. Protecting your home isn't about walls or fences. It's about standing firm when people push too far. The sirens were gone. The feud had cooled. And for now, at least for now, the pool was just a pool again. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me down in the comments, what would you do if your neighbor called 911 over something like this? I'll be reading your replies.